I'm Christy with Christy's Craft Room, and today I'm going to show you how I decorated this adorable little cow from our shop. For this project, I used a combination of scrapbook paper and paint. The scrapbook paper that I'm using today, I got from Hobby Lobby from one of their scrap paper books. The first thing you'll do is you will trace the cow's body onto the scrapbook paper. Once you have your lines all traced, you will then just cut along the lines. I did not trace or cut the stand or the udders. I just kind of visualized an imaginary line and cut straight across in those areas. Next, you will use some white paint and you will paint the cow's head and the udders. You're probably going to want 2 coats of paint because white just doesn't give you as much coverage as some other darker colors do. For the ears and the udder, I came back in with a little bit of hydrangea pink and then followed it up with a little bit of white, kind of blending it a little bit. I didn't want too harsh of a contrast from the white to the pink. I just wanted a little bit of pink showing on both areas. With a fine tip paintbrush, I used a little bit of black paint and colored in the eyes. I wanted to add some shadowing to this project, so I used some antique wax and a stenciling brush. To do this, I dipped my brush into the antique wax and then dabbed off a good portion of the antique wax onto a plate. And then I just stippled it around the edges of the head, around all of the metal pieces and the scrapbook paper for the body. If you want a darker contrast, you can add more. If you want it a little bit lighter, you can just add less. Or if you want to skip this step altogether, you totally can. The next step I did was to add my scrapbook paper to the body. To do this, I used Mod Podge. I brushed some Mod Podge onto my surface. I dried it completely. I laid my paper in place, put a piece of parchment paper over top of it, just regular parchment paper from the grocery store. And then I used my mini iron to press it on. What happens is that Mod Podge gets heated up from the iron and it reactivates it, so it adheres the paper to the surface. And you get a nice, smooth, clean finish every time. Once my scrapbook paper is set onto the body, I used a sanding sponge around the edges just to trim off any excess paper that was not lining up perfectly with the edges of my surface. Now that I have my scrapbook paper in place, I used my antique wax to stain my stand and kind of blend the transition from the cow body to the stand. Anytime I use antique wax on our metal pieces, I always like to seal it with a clear sealer. I like to use the Rust-Oleum 2x Ultra Cover Clear Sealer in the matte finish. The matte finish helps to give it a little bit of that aged, vintage, distressed look. It kind of takes a little bit of the shine away from the metal. Once everything is completely dry, I then used gel super glue to glue the metal pieces on and hot glue to glue my base together and my cow into the base. You're going to want to hold your cow in place until your hot glue sets, otherwise it might lean a little bit. You want them to be nice and straight. You want them to stand nice and tall and proud. Lastly, the final touch is to give him a little tail. To do this, I just used a piece of twine. I cut a piece probably about 6 or 7 inches long. I tied a little knot about 1 inch from the end, and then I separated all the little end pieces of the twine, and then I just glued it onto the back, and now our cute little cow is finished, ready for display. I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial, and if you want to see more like this, make sure you follow our page, and if you want to see all of our wood cutouts and other animals similar to this, just go to christyscraftroom.com and check out all of our wood and metal cutouts there. Thanks for watching.